It's time for list number 6 in a row, people. That's right. This is episode 3 of what you should be watching on Netflix. I assure you, I am not a disgusting, dirty person or someone who has one piece of clothing. Again, I filmed all of these episodes in one night because everybody should be doing their part and getting out as little as possible. So here's another 5 amazing shows that you should be watching on Netflix while you're stuck at home. So yeah, we're still all stuck at home due to Corona and just trying to take care of one another by keeping apart from each other. Yes, I know it feels counterintuitive to stay away from people because you care about them, but we all gotta do our part. But with all that rigmarole out of the way, let's get to it. Number 1 is Frontier. So you know how a bunch of white people came over to North America and basically decided, hey, this is ours, we're going to take everything, make it our own, and then we're going to murder everybody who was here before us, who rightfully has possession of this land and actually cares about it and takes care of it. That's basically what this show is about, but in this case, you get Declan Harp, a half-Irish, half-Cree native Canadian outlaw who's taking on the white folk who are exploiting his people and his land. So the show follows Declan Harp and his badass crew of native Canadians and white folk who are sympathetic to their plight as they take on the Hudson Bay Company's monopoly on the fur trade in Canada. A lot of this is based on what happened with the Native Canadians and Native Americans and the companies who came in and just took over their land and their resources and said, you know what, this is going to be ours, like white folk tend to do. You've got an amazing cast who turn into great performances. You know, you have some really clear black and white good guys and bad guys, but then you have some people that are kind of in the middle, which I think really give the show a bit more flavor. There's 3 seasons of it. The 4th season is kind of in the air due to Corona and everything else. I've really got high hopes for season 4. If you haven't checked this out, I highly recommend that you do because you get to see Jason Momoa and a bunch of native Canadians whoop a bunch of greedy white folks' asses, and it's a lot of fun. Number 2 is Narcos. Surprisingly, I've run into a lot of people who haven't given Narcos a chance. You have 5 seasons of amazing television. You've got the first 2 seasons, which follow the rise of Pablo Escobar, and then of course his downfall. Then you've got the 3rd season, which follows the Medellin cartel, and then the 4th and 5th season take place in Mexico. And it's so hardcore and gangster that one of the location scouts was actually murdered when they were trying to figure out where they were gonna shoot the show by the cartel themselves. Now that's a real death, a real murder by a drug cartel who didn't want to be portrayed on this show. So from season 1 all the way to the recent 5th season, you have a bunch of stories that are based off of real events, portrayed by amazing actors and actresses that really give the show a lot of soul, a lot of depth, when it could be all flash, something like Scarface or whatever. But in this case, you have a lot of weight and a lot of consequences. It's not all glitz and glam. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of scary stuff that happens. It'll have you on the edge of your seat. It does have some stylized moments. It does look amazing. It is very cool. But at the same time, it shows how bad America handled the war on drugs and how a lot of it was basically just for show and political gain. If you love realistic, gritty violence, filled with gore, exactly how it would look and sound, this show is for you. If you love good-looking people having lots of naked sex, this show is for you. This show is basically like if the movies Sicario and Traffic got together, banged one night, and then had a baby. Number 3, Shooter. Now I know what you're saying. I've already seen the movie Shooter, why should I watch the series? Well, the series, the first season covers what happened in the movie but goes into much more depth. You have a lot of great characters, you've got a lot of great acting, you've got a lot of great action. Even the show is on USA. It has some pretty gritty violence and it's done really well. The story's great and it's actually based off of the Stephen Hunter's series of books about Bob Lee Swagger. So not only do you have what happened in the movie, you have a lot of the stuff that happened in the book. And I think that's great. And that's just season 1. Seasons 2 and 3 go into more stuff from the other books. You get to see more about the characters. Now, of course, in the books, Bob Lee Swagger is a 65-year-old Vietnam veteran. They couldn't do that for the show. But when they said Ryan Phillippe would be playing Bob Lee Swagger, I really got excited for it. Because if you've seen the movie The Way of the Gun, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, you definitely know that he can do the action. And he really got into shape. He took training to really fit the military mindset. And he just comes off like a legit military man in this show. If you're wondering about the vibe of the show, think John Wick, but instead of being an up close and personal gun fu judo type thing, this guy is really good at ranged combat, booby traps, and that kind of stuff. Number 4, Last Chance U. So you know how every once in a while you see news stories about college students who made mistakes, whether it was drugs or fighting or whatever, and they get kicked out of their schools, and it looks like their life is pretty much over and they'll never play football again. So this show is about these colleges that basically recruit these players after they've been kicked out. Now, all 3 of the schools featured in the 5 seasons of this show are hotbeds of recruitment, even though they are community colleges. Every single season is packed with real events, these real players, the real emotions, the stuff that they're going through, and the consequences of their actions. Not just what happened in their previous schools, but their behavior, how serious they take their studies, how serious they take their practices, and all that kind of stuff. Their lives are really on the line in the show, and if they make a mistake, they're out of the program, and they're definitely never going to play football again. And everything that you can think of happening in a show will happen in this one, but the thing is, this is real life. So there are crimes, there are really emotional issues, there's really great, characters. Even though they're not characters, they're real people. There's guys on here that you really root for and you want to see them succeed. There are teachers and counselors that try to help them, that you really grow to love, and you hope that they do well. But one of the things that really sets the show apart is how everything breaks down over time. Season 1 and Season 2 take place at one college, which I think is East Mississippi Community College. Seasons 3 and 4 take place at another, and Season 5 is, of course, at a third school. Every single school is different, every program is different, but one thing that runs through all of them, this common thread, is the coaches. The coaches, we usually start off as great and inspirational and all that kind of stuff, but maybe the pressure of having Netflix filming them or whatever, it turns into a hot mess, and it usually means a lot of bad stuff for the school, for the students, and just really weird, really bad things happen, and it really gets you involved. For me, this is the best sporting documentary series ever made. Nothing even comes close to it. If you love sports, if you love redemption stories, if you love documentaries, this will fill every need that you have. It is amazing, but I gotta warn you, once you start watching, you're gonna want to binge all 5 seasons.
And number 5, Atlanta.
Donald Glover's Atlanta is really hard to describe. It is a comedy, but it's also a drama. The last time I saw a show with this much depth and this much comedy, but also this much real life in it, was Louie. But this show is not all reality. There's a lot of fantastical elements to it, and that's what's one of the great things about it, is it brings together the fantastical, the realistic, all of these real places and culture things that you come to enjoy, especially if you're from the South, and even more so if you're from Atlanta. You've got an amazing cast who really put their all into everything. There's lots of callbacks and little side jokes and things that happen throughout the series, but it's also really intelligently written, and you'll see a lot of cool places that you're familiar with from a lot of TV shows and movies, because Atlanta is a hotbed for filmmaking in America because of the tax breaks that you get when you film there and film in Georgia in general. One of the things I like best about the show is how it breaks down these really complicated real-world issues through comedy and good storytelling, and it never dumbs down anything for the viewer. Now, if you are not paying attention, a lot of times you will lose a lot of the threads that the show is carrying, especially a lot of these little jokes that happen in the background or come back later on. There's a lot of setups and payoffs, but it's not like obvious stuff. The first season was great. So the show basically follows this really smart guy who's down on his luck and decides to try to be a manager for his friend who is an up-and-coming rapper. But it's about a lot more than that. It's about these issues and these things that happen with the friends. It's about the ongoing things that happen in Atlanta. Season 3 is nowhere to be seen because of coronavirus and everything else, but I'm telling you, if you have not watched this show, you should definitely watch it. And there's one episode in Season 2 that's so far out of left field you will not believe it, but this is one of the best half hours of television that I have ever seen. I'd say it's on par with Jordan Peele's Get Out, if not better than that movie. So if you don't have a lot of time to watch shows, of everything that I've mentioned, I recommend this one the most, and probably Last Chance U second. So check out Atlanta on Netflix. I'm actually going to start rewatching it again because it's that damn good.
Again, I know this list is pretty eclectic, but I'm trying to pick out things that I really like, that I think any number of people could check out. You've got adventure, you've got some really intelligent comedy, you've got some good action, you've got true stories of death and intrigue, and a show about redemption for people who've made mistakes. If there are any other series that I missed you think I should be talking about or mentioning, let me know in the comment section below and I'll check them out. If I think they're super cool, then I will recommend them in another episode. So that's 6 lists in a row that I've given you guys. You definitely have a bunch of stuff that you can be watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.